Hi everyone, welcome to Geekly Recap, the podcast where we review episodes of the biggest and best TV shows week by week, helping you and us, let's face it, understand the plot as we all process it together.
This week we'll be looking at Marvel's new show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We will be delving into the comic book references and influences that caught our attention.
We'll also be looking at some of the cast and crew and give a little behind the scenes info as well.
And speculate on what the future may hold for our new favourite duo. Woo!
Hi Harbour.
Hi Meryl. It's good to see you again.
I know, it's like I haven't seen you in maybe a day or two.
Yeah, yeah, we did watch it together 2 days ago.
Yeah, since this podcast, I mean, we're already attached at the hip pretty much virtually, and even more so now. Like, I'm almost sick of you.
How dare you? So rude.
I'm not.
I feel attacked.
So yeah, I hope you guys have been well, you listeners. I hope you liked our first 2 episodes. I guess there are 2 episodes now.
The surprise 2 episodes.
Yeah, sorry, we did go on a lot, but I think there were a lot of interesting facts.
Yeah, and there was a few that we cut out, but we'll bring it in at some point.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll come up again. I mean, we like to repeat ourselves.
Yeah. But yeah, we do hope you're enjoying it.
Yeah, please get in touch with us and let us know like what you think and if you have any questions or if you think we missed anything out. But yeah, as Harva said, we did attempt to watch it together on Friday.
Yeah, thanks Disney. Your group watch was a big failure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was just our Fire Sticks. I don't know. But it was just not playing ball. It really was.
No.
We were so excited. We got ourselves all set up and emotionally, well, not really ready, but as ready as we were going to be. I invited her to the group watch. It was all going okay. And then it just wasn't. And then it would not play.
It glitched, it stopped, and then it wouldn't play. So in the end, like, you know, old school people, we had to press play at the same time.
But then I also had to download it to PlayStation first so I could watch it.
But we got there in the end, we watched it, and unfortunately for us, maybe some things that we expected came true, or did they? We don't know. I was still hit with emotion.
I know. I really wasn't ready I mean, I was and I wasn't, but I think the fact that we spent us like 45 minutes just to press play, I was ready. I was ready for it.
My mum took part in this as well. I'm going to go by what she said, and it's kind of like Game of Thrones. Until I see a body, I'm not going to believe in death.
Well, we didn't really see anybody, so maybe everyone's alive.
Yeah. They're all alive. No one's dead. So, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're finally going to talk about it.
We are.
But doesn't it make you a little bit sad now that you're like, oh, there's only 5 episodes left?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to go into it, but obviously if you've already seen the episode, which you should have if you're listening to this, we don't get to see the 2 guys together in this episode. And in a way, while it was a great episode and set some stuff up, I was like, now we only have 5 episodes where we get to see them together.
But that's assuming, that is assuming they're going to meet in the next episode.
They better.
But see, I didn't have a problem with them not seeing each other in this episode.
No, me neither.
But a lot of people did.
It's only because of how few episodes we're going to get anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's why. And also, you know, everyone's impatient. We've been waiting a year. We just want to see all their little buddy stuff where they're doing staring competitions and all of that with each other. But guys, I'm sure it's coming and it's going to be gold.
Oh, yeah.
But like, I thought it was very important to have this stuff. But we'll get into that anyway.
Exactly. I mean, we needed it. I thought it was the perfect setup episode. So for anyone that is like complaining about pacing issues, I'm sorry, agree to disagree. I'm going to say shut the F up. Like, it's like those people complaining, I will say Game of Thrones again, when they were like, oh, this episode's so slow. You can't have action in every episode. And this episode did have action, so shut up.
It had so much action. But like I said, we'll get into it in a second. Harva, why don't you tell them what the show is about?
So it's set 6 months after the final battle in Endgame. Falcon and the Winter Soldier team up for a global adventure that will test their skills and their patience. I mean, we already know they're not the best of friends. Or friends.
I think by the end, they're going to love each other so much. Where do we leave off with these guys, Harva?
So with Sam, or Falcon to some people, he's a former pararescue man, met Cap in the Winter Soldier, joined the Avengers, fought alongside Cap in Civil War, on Team Cap, became a fugitive, rejoined the Avengers, and was snapped in Infinity War. He rejoins them in Endgame and helps defeat Thanos, the whole on your left thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the aftermath, we learn that Cap went and lived a whole life with Peggy Carter and returns an old man, handing Sam his shield.
And Bucky?
Who the hell is Bucky?
Don't do that to me.
So Bucky, James Barnes, or the Winter Soldier, he's Cap's best friend from childhood. We first see him in the first Avenger, where he's captured by Hydra and experimented on by Arnim Zola. He's presumed dead but survives and becomes an assassin. Fast forward to Wakanda, he's freed from his brainwashing. He rejoins the Avengers but is also snapped, then resurrected by Hulk to help defeat Thanos. And we see Bucky say goodbye to Cap, knowing Steve is off to live the life he never had, and is then present when he returns to hand the shield to Sam.
Had a lot of controversy, probably still does.
Yeah, because I understand it a lot more now.
Yeah.
And I definitely processed it. But at the time, you're like, oh, but it's his best friend. But, you know, Bucky's dealing with a lot of shite.
I feel like this show is going to definitely help everyone who's been going, oh, but Bucky should have got it.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to really explain it to them why he really shouldn't have. From trailers, we know that they both kind of get to wield the shield.
We've even seen him do it in The Winter Soldier.
He's like a dog. He catches the frisbee. So, episode 1, what's this called?
It's called New World Order. It's directed by Carrie Scogland, and she directs all of them, all 6 episodes. And her credits include The Handmaid's Tale, The Loudest Voice, The Punisher, Sons of Liberty, The Walking Dead, Vikings, and Penny Dreadful.
Cool. And it's written and created by Malcolm Spellman. He hasn't actually done a lot, but he has worked on Empire, a film called Our Family Wedding, and he wrote the Sopranos Road to Respect video game.
And the composer is Henry Jackman, who's done X-Men First Class, but he's also done The Winter Soldier, Civil War, and obviously this show. He's the only composer, I believe, in the MCU to do the sequel to the films.
Interesting. Okay, synopsis for episode 1. I've got Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes adjust to life after returning from the blip at the end of Avengers Endgame. Yes, it's still called the Blip Harbor. Are you over it yet?
No. I had to go back, and because I asked you in the last podcast saying, where did the blip come from? I think it was from Far From Home. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I've only watched that once. I don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember it. So I was like, oh, because I just thought some stupid idiot decided to call it the blip and it took on. I didn't realize it was mentioned. So the first scene, so exciting.
Was it exciting?
No, but I was excited to see something, to know that it had just begun.
Yeah, we're so excited. And what do we first see? A shirt being ironed.
Exactly. The most boring thing known to man. But this was where I'm like, oh my God, are we going to see what we don't want to see right now?
Very somber opening.
It is. So we see Sam ironing the shirt, Cap's shield is on the bed, and then we hear the voiceover from the end of Endgame of Steve asking him, how does it feel? And he says, like someone else's.
And he says it isn't. But Falcon doesn't agree. I respectfully disagree.
No. But you understand, like, this guy has held the shield for 70 years?
Well, I mean, he was asleep for most of that.
He was. They didn't have anyone else in his position in that time.
I mean, think about it. The shield holds so much, like, responsibility. Can you imagine? Like, even if Falcon is exactly the guy for it, that's a lot. Like, he's grown up in his entire life hearing it. It's like someone going, where's Superman's cape? You can do it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is America ready for him to be the next Cap? Both the director, the writer, and Anthony Mackie himself has said that the story would portray the shield to be a burden on the character.
Mm-hmm.
Wilson is basically questioning, can a black man represent this country when the country can't really represent him, if that makes sense?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I think a lot of this show is going to hit close to home of what is going on in the States and just generally around the world.
But yeah, that's kind of how it opens. It's just a very somber scene with nothing really much going on. You can see that he seems to be like back home, in Louisiana.
He's got his uni flag at the back.
LSU Tigers, woo!
But we just assume he's preparing for a funeral.
Yeah, either that or it's a job interview.
And he packs the shield away into a brown bag, which is the brown bag that Cap brought the shield back in.
Yes. Okay, cut to next scene.
We discover that a terrorist group called the LAF have hijacked a Captain Vassant. We find out here that the US can't actually cross the border.
Yeah, they seem to be afraid of going over certain borders. Whatever's happened in the world seems to have caused a lot of disruption, more so than usual, and they are not allowed over Libya.
It's always the Libyans. So the military needs Sam to be subtle at this point. He's got his, let's say, sidekick. We find out Lieutenant Torres on the ground. And this is the first glimpse that we see of Batroc. And I cannot pronounce French names.
Batroc? Sorry, French people.
Who we haven't seen since the Winter Soldier. So
I know. I'm not going to lie, however. I didn't remember him until I Googled it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's like their leader right now, and they've hijacked a plane already.
The thing is, we don't even know why they're hijacking the plane and what their intentions are.
Exactly. We don't really know that much about them. They're not in the comics either.
I was glad to see a reference back to the Winter Soldier. It was nice. It's going to tie in well. And I hope we do actually get to see more of this character coming and going through the next shows or films or something.
Well, you'd think if they brought him back for this, he's got to have something going on later, even if it's not part of LAF, because we don't actually know at this point if they're going to be featured more, because there's other villains present too that we'll find out.
Exactly. So during this whole fight, it's probably one of the most exciting fight scenes we have seen in a long time. It's very cinematic. I believe a lot of these episodes, if not all of these episodes, were around $25 million each. So it's a huge budget.
But it was an amazing scene. Like the first time we watched it, I was amazed, but I think I was still in a bit of shock that we were even watching a new episode. Yeah. So when I rewatched it, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It was so good.
I was really enjoying it. We get to see Red Wing again.
Yes, Red Wing. He's cute. I don't care what Natasha said, okay? I would have pet that thing.
And the whole time when we were watching it, I said to Meryl, he even makes sounds like R2-D2. The whole fight scene, we thought Star Wars anyway, when they're going through the canyon.
Yeah, very Star Wars there. We didn't mention Batroc. Aside from being in Winter Soldier, he is actually from the comics, which comic book fans probably already know, and they could probably educate us on this. But yes, he's like someone who's had like a lot of brigades, and he teams up with a lot of other villains and causes havoc for Captain America and others throughout the comics.
Ugh, what a douche. Just leave Captain America alone. So as they're fighting and we see the parachute coats, is that what they're called? Gliding through the canyons, and we see Falcon and like the close-up shot of Falcon. Well, Carrie Scogland, the director, said that she researched how people used GoPros to give a sense of feeling that we are with Sam in this moment.
Oh, that's cool. That must have been a hard scene to direct. A lot of it was CGI, obviously, but then they must have had stunt doubles who were actually skydiving.
Yeah. And the thing is, Feige actually told Scogland to do this show how she would do a show. Don't try and compare it to other Marvel stuff.
Right.
He was like, I want you to have your own take on it. So yeah, that was interesting, because there's some other camera shots that I'll mention in another scene as well that I just think it just brings the scene to life, basically.
You know how sometimes you watch a show and you feel like the show has a format, so they get, it doesn't matter who's directing it for the most part as far as visually, but this one, I mean, definitely this woman has put her stamp on it.
Mm-hmm.
Go,
woo, female director.
Go power.
As they're fighting, Lieutenant Torres tells Sam that he's got 90 seconds left before he gets into Libyan territory. And then you see like missiles flying everywhere. And eventually he flies through the helicopter, grabs Captain Vasant, and I'm like, oh my God, you're going to drop him. Like, what the hell?
Captain Vasant has been through it. Like, I'm sure his pants were soiled. I mean,
definitely. I mean, this was not a war on the ground.
I mean, I'm surprised he was alive and conscious, because I don't know what state I would be in. He was very calm considering what was going on with him. He was being jumped from one plane to the next on people's backs. It was crazy.
It was, I know there was a lot of leaping from helicopter to helicopter in this. It looked like so much fun, yet terrifying. Falcon does it, Sam does it, helicopters go down, but Batroc does escape. As he would. He somehow glides out, and that's the last we see of him.
For now. So, they're relaxing now. They've saved the day. They're in Tunisia having a tea.
That did make me want a tea.
Yes, I had to mention the tea because that is exactly how we drink our tea in Turkey as well. So Falcon is fixing his Red Wing, his little Red Wing, which has been damaged because of those bloody attacks that he just went through.
This is the first time we see Sam actually being recognized for being an Avenger. We see a local thank him for saving his wife.
I'm assuming that was to do with the blip, though, because he said, "You brought me back, my wife."
But then Sam speaks Arabic, and I'm like, where did this come from? Does he have powers I'm not aware of?
Maybe he also has the ability to just speak whatever language is necessary. That would be a cool power.
That would be a cool power.
But Redwing, actually, did you Google him, Harva?
I did.
It turns out he was a real Falcon in the comics. I actually kind of wish it was. I kind of wish it was.
Hey, I'm still holding out for Lucky the pizza dog.
I know, if that's a robot too, I'm going to be annoyed. But yeah, in the comics, he did share a telepathic link with him, which was actually apparently a result of the Red Skull's manipulation of the Cosmic Cube. I don't know what the Cosmic Cube is, but I want to find out.
So did you also know during your research of Redwing that Redwing in the comics was actually used to experiment on Lieutenant Torres, or in the comics, he's Joaquin Torres?
No, I did not know.
He basically gets turned into a human-bird hybrid using Redwing. Whoever takes him, I didn't delve quite into it, but he is captured and he gets powers and he ends up basically turning into this Falcon with claws and a beak. I think he had a beak.
I don't think that's going to happen in this.
I don't think so, but he takes the mantle of Falcon. So is this a nod to because Falcon is going to be Cap?
Or is he?
But is it a nod? Like he is a character that's in the comics.
You never know. Sometimes they have a reason for being there and sometimes it's just a cute little nod, isn't it? So we'll see, I guess. But so while they're enjoying their tea, I have to bring up the tea again. Torres is using his phone and looking around. I thought, is he taking pictures?
He's like scanning the area.
He finds like a red handprint, and I remember mentioning, is this like their version of Pokemon Go? Like, apparently it's about a terrorist organization or something that's only really on message boards right now. They're not a big deal. They're called the Flag Smashers. I actually think that name's really silly, but apparently it's in the comics. But they actually think that the world was better during the blip, so they want like a world without borders, which in a way sounds kind of nice, but if they're doing it in a terroristy way, that's not that great.
Yeah.
There's nicer ways of saying this, people.
I mean, we get to them later on in the episode, and I'm like, what you're doing?
I know. I'm like, are you uniting people? I don't really know. But in the comics, apparently there were two fictional supervillains who were called Flag Smasher, and the original was a foe of Captain America, but he's also been a foe of Punisher, Ghost Rider, Deadpool. So, I mean, he's been around. Falcon does tell him to keep an eye out, but to kind of keep his distance, like look at them online. As I'm sure Falcon has heard a lot, everyone who meets him wants to know questions. I'm sure we would be the same. and Torres can't refrain from asking him. Apparently there's rumors about Captain America being on the moon.
Yeah, he says there's a conspiracy.
He's on the moon watching over us all. It did remind me of that John Lewis advert with the old man on the moon.
It could be. Maybe they've seen it.
Maybe. Did Carrie Scogland also direct that commercial?
But it's funny because it could be a reference to Nick Fury in the comics. In the events of the original Sin, it shows that Fury has been secretly waging wars on potential alien invaders for years. He becomes the Watcher, apparently, and he's imprisoned on the moon. And we currently know he's in space. He's probably the one that's asked Monica Rambeau to join him in space.
Yeah, true.
So why can't Cap be there with him?
Maybe.
At first, I was like, this is a bit far-fetched, but now I'm like, no, it could be.
I just don't think we're ready for him to pass, but you never know. But I also did read that if you've listened to our last 2 episodes, we did mention House of M, which is a very strong theme in WandaVision. And apparently there was like a Marvel newspaper from the noughties, and it was called the Pulse House of M Special. And it was an alternate reality newspaper, and there was a story about Cap walking on the moon. So it might just be a cute little nod, or like Harva said, there's a lot more to it. Also, I read that the Inhumans are in the moon, or something to do with the moon. Also, Chris Evans has said he's not coming back, right? So
a lot of people can say that, though.
It's true, but I don't know. We'll see. But I did think that, hey, if they can't get him, maybe they can get Jeffrey Wiseman to be him as he played George McFly in Part 2. Why not?
It could work. But that's the thing. Like, I understand he didn't want to be tied down to a long contract. You know, he had a 10-year, 11-year contract with Disney. But that's not to say he can't appear as a flashback or as his voice or anything.
Exactly.
He could still appear. I know that's us holding hope.
You know they like to do this. They did it to everybody in WandaVision. Everyone's like, oh, this means this. Oh, this means this. And none of it meant anything. So
I know.
This could just be another thing, just to tease us.
I've become one of those fans that were doing it for WandaVision, but I'm doing it for this because I really want this. I want to see Cap having tea and scones on the moon, watching Antiques Roadshow.
But I don't want I don't want old Cap though. I mean, I still would.
Hey, it might not even be old Cap. There's alternate Caps. There's got to be an alternate Cap where he went in a different timeline that maybe they can jump into. You don't know.
Let's not open that door right now. I'm going to get cross-eyed.
You don't know. So Sam departs from Tunisia. He tells Lieutenant Torres that he's heading back to Washington. Or, you know, he says to do moon stuff. And we see him at a Smithsonian exhibit, which I don't actually know what it is, but it's not a funeral, but it looks like this is him retiring the Cap shield and giving it back to the government.
Steve Rogers is no longer with us.
Yeah. This is where we actually see a little cameo, which was nice to see from James Rhodes, Rhodey, War Machine.
Yeah.
However you guys know him.
I would actually think it couldn't possibly be an actual funeral anyway. I mean, or whatever this is, because why would only Rhodey turn up?
Exactly. Everyone would have to be there. Then again, they only had $25 million for this episode, so they could probably only afford
CGI.
James Rhodes.
CGI.
Sam is talking to the crowd, and he says, we need new heroes, one suited for the times we're in.
He also says symbols are nothing without the women and men that give them meaning. I guess he doesn't feel worthy of that shield.
It's definitely going to touch a lot on race here as well. And he hands the shield back to the Department of Defense, and they put it in a plexiglass. Like, that shield should not be behind a plexiglass.
Well, let's face it doesn't stay in there for very long.
I don't know if you noticed this, but the government official, well, you must have done. The government official then says, oh, I think it was the right decision to hand it back.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? He's credited as the government official.
Okay, so he hasn't got a name yet.
No, but I reckon there's going to be more to him than meets the eye.
We know what happens at the end of the episode, and obviously if you're listening to this, you probably already know. But it sounds like this was already a plan in the making.
They don't even feel like America's ready for a black Captain America.
Well, they're ready for a squished face of Captain America, but whatever.
Like, we'll get there. We will get there. But as soon as I saw him, I said to Meryl, it looks like the one we met at Universal Orlando.
Excuse me, I looked at that picture again. He looks better.
Which one?
Our one. So Rhodey wants to take a walk with Sam, and they start walking through the familiar now Captain America Museum exhibit portion. I googled this place because it's a real place in the Smithsonian Institute, and they don't have one. I was like, I want them to actually have one. I want to go.
I would totally go.
For sure. I mean, we went to something kind of similar, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah, we should post that photo.
We will.
And we got to not necessarily hold Thor's hammer, but we tried.
That sounds so wrong. It is confirmed to us that Sam is now living at home. They're walking around. The camera zooms in on Bucky. I wonder why.
Yeah. You see like a whole history of Bucky.
They also had a bit with all the people that had vanished as well, even though they're back now. They need to update that.
They had all the ones that were lost. They had images, the symbols for Hydra, the symbols for S.H.I.E.L.D. And if people noticed behind the bike on the bottom right, there's a Captain America Comics issue 1. That's written by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, and it's the first appearance of Captain America.
Rhodey asks him why he didn't take up the mantle, and he also says that the world has changed. Allies are enemies, alliances are torn apart, the world is broken, and they're looking for someone to fix it. Much like how we feel right now. I'm kind of like, hey, at least you guys had someone. We've never had someone.
Yeah. Sam was gone. Sam was also gone for 5 years, so he only knows what he can see now. He doesn't know everything they've gone through, the ones that were left behind.
I feel like that must be so weird because for them it was instantaneous. So it's like they time traveled, changed something, came back, and the world's different. Do you know what I mean? Like an alternate reality for them. Because as far as they're aware, the world has always had this amount of people in it. And what's the problem? But it's interesting that the show, and even the movies to some extent, have chosen to show you that there are consequences to everything. You know, because normally you watch a superhero movie, they save the day, everything's great, next film, everything's normal, like nothing ever happened. You know, very used to it. Even in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, you know, they're like, how is everyone acting like nothing just happened? It's just it's almost like nothing has any consequences for anybody else. Yeah. But in the Marvel movies and the shows now, even WandaVision, you know, you see that this all has an effect. And I thought that was really interesting how they've chosen to go that route. You know, yeah, they brought everybody back, end of Endgame, woohoo! The world had to move on, and they clearly changed a lot to accommodate for the fact that half the people were missing. However, I think I'd be one of the people that would be complaining that they're back. I'm not gonna lie.
This is why I think this episode is so important, because it's not only Falcon, but it is also Bucky, who blipped. He was snapped. He came back. He's suffering the same thing as Sam is right now.
I mean, Sam is kind of luckier just because he has roots already. Whereas Bucky, as we will find out, and we already kind of know, he has nothing. I mean, his one connection was Steve, and now Steve isn't easy to hand. So if he's even still alive, you know what I mean?
He's on the moon. There's no reception.
Well, he should have taken Bucky with him.
But I don't know if you noticed this. It's only when he goes back home and I hear Uncle Sam. I said to you, hang on a minute, isn't Uncle Sam the guy from the posters?
Yeah.
That poster is in this scene, and the way it's shot, the camera is angled that the I Want You is directed straight at Sam. I was like, oh my God.
You remember there was a Captain America poster that looked exactly the same. Sam, it's meant to be you, guy.
Yeah.
It's very clever that, I mean, obviously there'll always be people that watch this and completely disagree with us. But I think for the majority, I think this show is definitely going to be the thing that makes everybody go, yes, he should be Captain America.
Especially after seeing this one. This tool.
We'll get there. We've probably got a lot to say about that.
The director, Carrie Scogland here, explained that Rhodes is to play a mentor role for Falcon as well. I keep calling him Falcon. Sam Wilson. But it's just easier to say Falcon.
It is. Even though Sam is like one syllable.
I know, but I like his alias more.
So we change scenes now, and it's a really lovely... It looked like a train station originally for me. I was like, this is huge, huge. It turns out apparently it's a hotel.
Very fancy hotel.
And you kind of get the feeling you're not in America anymore. I did look it up. It's not actually a hotel. I won't say what happens in the scene as we'll get there, but apparently it was a former bank building in Prague known as I'm going to say this wrong, I'm really sorry, anyone from Czech, Zivnobanka Palace. It was a bank, so it's closed down. I think the last I read was in 2015, Chinese company bought it. This building was really gorgeous. It had a lovely mural, but you know, the Winter Soldier kind of ruined that. But go into it, Harbour. What happened?
Oh my God, I was so excited because we obviously knew it was like a flashback.
Well, we definitely knew at this moment.
Well, because we see him like grab some guy through a wall, which happens. It happens in another film. I can't remember which one, but it does happen in another Marvel film. And I was like, oh my God, you see the mask and the long hair. And like I've said this to you, The Winter Soldier is my favorite film out of the MCU. I would rate that and Infinity War as like the top ones for me. But the Winter Soldier is, I don't care what anyone says, story arc wise, it's just the most perfect film. But you also hear his theme tune by Jackman. I absolutely love it. And as soon as, I don't think I noticed it at first because we were either screeching or like, oh my God, it's the Winter Soldier. But when I rewatched it, for me, it's iconic, like Zimmer's Joker's theme. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my God. And it's that sense of destruction, dread, like it's about to go down.
I won't lie to you, Harbour. Please don't tell me off. But I actually don't remember his theme. It definitely didn't stand out enough for me. I'm sorry, if you're not John Williams or James Horner, I don't remember your music.
God. Oh my God. I mean, I've mentioned it before in the previous episodes. I do love villains. And villain music is one of them.
Maybe that's just your thing, you know? You're just like, that's what you're like, that's my next theme. Like, you imagine it because you watched wrestling. That's your theme when you get on stage. I don't pay attention to those things. I only notice it if they're superheroes. Because I'm the hero. I'm doing the superhero pose right now. You can't see it.
I mean, you mentioned John Williams, and he's got so many iconic theme tunes. But I'm going to say the Imperial March is number one.
If you weren't aware from the first 2 episodes, there were like at least 2 moments where Harvey explained how evil she potentially is.
As I said, I love Joker's theme, and there's similarities in the way that I can say there's like a screeching tone. You'll recognize it as soon as you hear it.
I'll Google it after this. Winter Soldier bursts through the wall, like Harvey said, and then starts to, fight these men. We don't know who these men are. I don't know if they're meant to be good men, bad men. They're men, but I'm guessing they're good men because when he hurts them, kills them, whatever he does to them, the last thing he says is Hail Hydra. So, I don't think they were like...
Is it the bad getting rid of the bad as well? They could be dodgy people.
We don't know. It could just be dodgy people that wronged Hydra. Who knows?
Exactly.
But we do see an innocent bystander who caught all this. It's kind of funny because you don't think where it's going to go. Like, I don't know about you, but I kind of giggled because he's like trying to get his key in the door. And I just thought it was going to be, I don't know, for a second, I think I've gotten so used to Bucky as this nice guy that I went, oh yeah, no, he's the Winter Soldier right now. He's not going to be like, oh, it's okay. No.
Yeah, I don't know. I maybe thought he's going to knock him out, but then that's not him.
I thought he might shoot the door open for him, but no.
That was not going to happen.
No.
No, unfortunately, it does happen off camera.
It does. I mean, we find out that it's a nightmare, but it's clearly a memory, not just something that he had a nightmare about. So yeah, we don't see him shoot him, but we get the feeling that that's where it was going. So the gunshot jolts Bucky awake.
And he's been sleeping on the floor. It's a very bare bone apartment.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even a bedroom. I mean, the TV's there, the seats are there.
I reckon he was meaning to sleep on the floor, and I reckon he has been sleeping on the floor because it's very common for veterans to come home and they can't get comfortable in a bed. I think Sam mentions this to Cap.
Because they've just gotten so used to roughing it, so it must feel really weird. The comforts don't feel so comforting.
Bucky's had his nightmare, and now we see that he's in therapy. We find out he's been pardoned, but part of the conditions of his pardoning means he has to see a therapist.
Yeah, which makes sense. They have to make sure that he's not going to be causing any problems again.
But you have to also remember this is set 6 months after. So presuming he's seen him either right after or maybe a month later, he's probably been doing about 5-6 months worth of therapy here.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound like they've gotten too far, because
he's very closed off.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the character is always, aside from maybe in the first movie where he's obviously a lot more of a happier, more confident guy, as himself, he's very stoic. He doesn't really seem to speak a lot. He's a very quiet person. Like, he doesn't share. Before we move on, I just wanted to say that the therapist is a character called Dr. Rayner. She doesn't seem to be from the comics. She's played by Amy Aquino, who people probably might know her. She's been working for a while, but she was in Working Girl, a movie from the 80s, and Picket Fences and Bosch. He has a list of amends. Well, we say list, it's more like a notebook of amends. He's got a lot of amends to make.
He does. I mean, I will get to this later, but I'd like to say there are 2 pages. And some of the names, you're like, are these amends? And some of them, I feel like the characters don't match each other. You're like,
Whether it be that he's going to be nice to them or not, we don't know. He's got 3 rules, though. So, I mean, he's trying to abide by them as best he can. Number 1 was he can't do anything illegal. Number 2 was nobody gets hurt. And 3 was...
Well, that should be number 1, right?
I know, that's what he says. Well, I guess they kind of go hand in hand. And number 3 was, I guess he has to say something. And the thing he has to say is, I'm no longer the Winter Soldier. I'm James Bucky Barnes, and you're part of my efforts to make amends.
Forced smile in that shot. Yeah. I loved it. And also when he said nobody gets hurt, it's a shot of him smacking the aide.
So yeah, while this is happening, you do see him because he does address the fact that he has gone to make amends. And it's with somebody called Senator Atwood, played by Rebecca Lyons. She's been in Mr. Mercedes. But Senator Atwood, he explains, was a Hydra pawn for years, and he helped her get into office. And after Hydra disbanded, she's continued to abuse the power he gave her. So I guess he feels the need to kind of fix that.
Well, she says something. I think she turns around to her aide and she says, if the congressman wants to speak up, then silence him for good.
So what he's saying to his therapist isn't exactly the way it went, but I don't think he really did anything that illegal.
I did notice here his license plate. I looked it up. I couldn't find anything on it. It was 10872 FQ. There was actually a comic book of Captain America and Falcon in 72 in August that had Sharon Carter in it as well, and I think she was kidnapped.
So yeah, he's managed to get Senator Atwood arrested for what she's done, I guess. In his notebook, we do see him cross out her name, like that one's done. But we do notice other names, which I know Harva and I have both taken notice of. So one was A. Rostov, who in the comics is Andre Rostov, aka the Red Barbarian. I love these names sometimes.
I know, they're great.
He apparently in the comics worked as the warden of a gulag that Bucky served time in, and they made enemies with each other. So I don't know what kind of amends he's going to make with that one. There was also P.W. Hauser, which I've got written down as Paul Walter Hauser, who's a real life actor and comedian, a friend of Sebastian Stan's, and they worked together on I, Tonya together.
He actually tweeted about it and said, don't think I didn't see this, I've seen it. But I also have that it could be a reference to Wilhelm Hauser, who appeared in the Nick Fury comics in the 60s. He was a general who served under Hitler.
So yeah, it could be both.
Yeah.
Just a happy coincidence. Hey, my mate's called that.
Awkward.
Then the next name, which we'll know because I'm sure he's going to turn up very soon, H. Zemo, Helmut Zemo.
Yeah.
He was in Captain America Civil War, played by Daniel Bruhl. So he's on Bucky's list, so, you know, he's probably going to hunt him down, actually.
I mean, he did try and frame him.
Yes, he didn't do very good things, so yes.
I also have L. Kaminsky.
Yeah.
Who's the 80s Marvel writer and editor, Len Kaminsky.
Yeah, apparently he also created Rebecca Barnes, which is Bucky's sister.
Who he mentions. She apparently helps Cap in some of the comics. I was like, oh my God.
They were separated at a young age, I think.
Is she even alive? He's 106.
Maybe she's the spring soldier. You know, she was also taken. She's still young somewhere. No, we don't know. But it did make me question whether it was more that he thought if he was the age he is now, then yes, his parents died, but he has a sister. So is he saying it just to be like, yeah, at my age, I would have had a sister? Or is it that he actually knows that she's still around? She'd be, well, I mean, she's younger than him, but I don't think that by that much. So she'd still be maybe 100 years old. So
assuming she hasn't gone the same way as Peggy and's got Alzheimer's, because obviously she would know that her brother's still alive.
Yeah.
Then.
Well, if they have a scene like that coming up at some point, we better get our tissues ready. And the last name I noticed on the list was, oh God, C. Kuznetsov. Dr. Kuznetsov, Soviet scientist. He's responsible for creating a sentient robot, not Vision, known as Udarnik. And he was told to destroy it in the comics, but he refused and secretly sent it to the moon. Sent it to the moon. What's going on with the moon?
Because I've got it written here. He worked for the Soviet space program.
Guys, we're off to space.
We are. We literally are.
And yeah, I mean, the rest of the scene is, you know, she's trying to get through to him. He's not really opening up. And, you know, Harva and I both noticed that the camera is very tight on the Doctor, but not very tight on him. I liked noting that the background wallpaper was of trees. Kind of reminded me of the end of Endgame.
Oh, so it reminded me of Wakanda.
Oh, really? Well, whatever. It's kind of, I think he feels a lot more comfortable in nature, to be honest.
I mean, he mentions peace in Wakanda.
And he says he wants peace again, which made me laugh because she says it's a bunch of, well, it's utter bull. Beep. And
Yeah.
he goes, you're a terrible shrink, which made me laugh. And we find out that she used to be a soldier too, so she kind of understands where he's coming from. And she tells him that he needs to reach out to friends. You know, Sam keeps messaging him or writing, calling him, and he's not picking up.
Yeah, she takes his phone. She's like, this is about trust. I want to see your phone.
Yeah, a very dated phone.
Oh my God, the Reddit comments on this flip phone. And they're like, well, he's an old man, so he needs big buttons. Or, he's got a metal arm. How is he meant to use a touch screen?
Exactly. True. True. Very true.
It was great, though.
Okay.
I know. I imagine the ringtone to be stupidly loud as well for his old ears.
Oh, wait, he's not an old man. I mean, he's old, but he's not physically old. He's in peak health, probably. But yeah, she seems to kind of get more into his head a little bit. The camera also tightens onto him, and their shots are practically matching each other. I thought that was really clever.
The director, Scogden, said that it would allow the audience to get into Bucky's head and create that claustrophobic feeling, which is why it just kept getting closer. At one point, I was like, all we've got is an eye.
Yeah, well, at least it wasn't his nostril, so that's all right. So he leaves therapy. He's walking. It says Brooklyn, so we know he's in Brooklyn. I'm not sure. Does that mean that he wasn't in Brooklyn when he met the therapist? I don't know, but now it says Brooklyn. So he's walking past this alleyway, and we made the joke of the one alleyway in New York, because if you've been there, I remember on my tour, they said they always pretend there's like loads of alleyways in New York. There are hardly any. There might be like one or two, and that's it. There's not really any left anymore. So he's walking past one, and he kind of stops I'm going to say fight. It wasn't really a fight.
It was a fight.
It would have been an ugly fight, but he stopped it. He saves someone who's quite small. Just like in First Avenger, when we first meet him, he's saving small, tiny Steve Rogers.
You can't see my face, but I'm like squealing.
So yeah, he stops a fight between an old, cute Asian man and someone called Unique. It's like Monique, but
with a U, because it's unique.
Slap him.
I know. If someone made that comment at me, I'd just walk. I'd just keep on walking. I'd let the old man slap him.
Yeah, exactly. So it turns out he's friends with this little old man called Yori, who's really cute actually, and they apparently go to lunch together often. And he says, I thought we were going to Lizzie's.
I think he says, no, I'm busy or something, and goes, I'll pay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, but no talking, which, he sounds like my kind of friend.
I'd hang out with him.
So they go to Lizzie's, which is, I'm assuming, an Asian restaurant. So they're sitting there. They're talking though.
I love this bit. So Yori's looking at he's looking at a newspaper and he's reading the obituaries, as old people do. And he says, no one made it past 90 this week. And Bucky says, so young, such a shame. But the way he delivered that line, I do not do it justice. Sebastian Stan has got good comedy timing.
There's a girl that works at the place. She's listed as Leah, and she's played by Miki Ishikawa. She's in something called The Terror. She's been in something called Yotek. And apparently she was also in Zoe 101 when she was younger.
Wow, Disney child, eh? Well, Yuri is played by Ken Takemoto, and he's done quite a few things as well.
When she speaks up, she's a female. If you're the dad from Friday Night Dinner, she's female.
Female? Oh my God, but Yuri plays the perfect wingman.
I know, I need him. Basically, he asks her out for him. She's up for it. Why wouldn't she be?
Yeah, I think she even says that, or she says something along those lines. Why wouldn't I?
It's a date.
It's a date.
Lucky cow.
Meanwhile, Yuri then, he sees a plate of mochi. His son loves red bean mochi. And you realize, this was the moment that I went, uh-oh.
Yeah, we realized that the nightmare that Bucky had in the earlier scene was about the son of Yuri's that he'd killed when he was the Winter Soldier. It's quite sad because you realize that now he's trying to make amends with Yuri.
Yeah. And I think this is heartbreaking for both characters here. I can't begin to imagine how I would feel on the other end of this, being in Yuri's position.
Yeah, he doesn't know what happened to his son, and that's one of the things he says he wishes he knew. But you kind of think, you don't really wish you knew. He
says, I got told that he was there at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Which they're right true. About, but they don't go into detail. And he's left wondering what happened to his son. And it's quite heartbreaking to see Bucky's face because he knows he's the reason this happened. And I think it's lovely that he's befriended him because he's almost like his son in a way now.
The camera just kind of pans to Bucky's face, and you immediately see the guilt, the dread, and you hear the Winter Soldier music again, the theme tune.
How does it go? You just do like the little clip.
I can't do it.
Hum it quickly.
I can't. I genuinely can't because it's like a screech. Yeah, that's not it.
Nailed it.
So we just broke there for a minute just so Meryl could hear the Winter Soldier
Yes,
theme
we did.
tune.
And I nailed it. I think you guys will agree.
You sounded like you were being, well, I guess, yeah, you do sound like you're being murdered. But
Just like the victims of Winter Soldier. So we cut to Delacroix, Louisiana. Sam is going back home. His family turn out to be fish farmers. And yeah, so he goes home. He sees his sister and his nephews. And his sister, Sarah, she's played by, I apologize if I say this wrong, Adepero Oduye. She's been in 12 Years a Slave and The Big Short. So they welcome him home, and that's when we first hear
Uncle Sam, which is a nice little reference. But I believe that this is one of the reasons why he's got a sister or he's got nephews, is to use that in the comics as well.
Well, Sarah Wilson is actually in the comics in Earth 616. She is a widow in the comics. After the death of her husband, her brother tries to look out for her. In that, she only has one son called Jodie Casper.
She's another person who has suffered since the blip because her brother has not been there for 5 years.
You find out in this scene that they've been struggling. In the comics, their father was a minister who lived in Harlem. But in this, we don't really know quite what he did, but the boat's named after them, Paul and Darlene. She wants to sell the boat, which apparently doesn't really work very well. But he seems to be thinking that he can fix it. Now that he's back, he can fix things for them.
He can fix everything that's been broken.
Yeah. You know, what do they want for the next hero of the world? Someone who can fix everything. I wonder why they thought Falcon would be a good choice. Finally, we get to see the date. I say finally like we've had to wait 500 hours, but we're at the date. He's brought flowers because he's so old-fashioned, apparently. Excuse me, I expect flowers.
He said he tries online dating. I think she asked him, like, you know, when was the last time you had a date? And he goes, yeah, it was online dating was very weird, and there was a lot of tiger photos. And I was like,
I remember when we watched that the first time, I was like, were we on the wrong sites? I never noticed.
What did we miss?
Yeah, I'm like, clearly I'm not looking at the right people. Or I am looking at the right people. He's looking at the weird ones. But yeah, I Googled this because I've never come across it. Maybe very rarely, but not really a thing. Not enough to say that. I thought originally it was tiger filters, like, is it a Snapchat thing? But no, apparently it is a thing. There's even a website that I found called tigersoftinder.com. And there's loads, it's all just pictures of people from Tinder that have posed with a tiger.
That is weird. I thought it was like, maybe because it was around the time of Tiger King, they just thought to incorporate it.
Well, to be fair, in 2023, will there really still be Tigers of Tinder? I don't know.
Louis Theroux is doing another Tiger King documentary, so watch out, guys, 2023. But I did notice he's also drinking tiger beer.
Yeah.
She also says that he sounds like her dad because he's moaning about the online dating. And she's like, oh, how old are you? And he's honest. He just says 106, but laughs nervously.
He's hilarious.
He just laughs nervously. And then she asks about the gloves as well. And he goes, poor circulation, which I said to Meryl, I told you he's an old man.
He's not an old man. He's lying.
He's not hiding the metal arm. He's cold.
No, he's hiding the metal arm. And we said this when we first watched it. If he had walked in with one glove, she'd call him Michael Jackson. So, you know, she starts asking him questions, as you do during a date, I suppose. It's been a while since I've been on one. Is that what you do?
I think so.
And, you know, he seems to open up a little bit. And he says that he has a sister. Since when, Bucky?
This is what we mentioned earlier. So she's called Rebecca Barnes, and she was actually introduced in the Marvel Holiday Special, issue 1. It's a story written by Len Kaminsky, who we also mentioned before as well.
Yeah.
But then this is where she also brings up Yuri's son. She says, like, I think she says she's grateful for Bucky, or, you know, she's happy that he's hanging around Yuri because he has been lonely. And Bucky is rigged with guilt. He leaves and he does go to Yuri, and Yuri's like, how was your date? And he sees a shrine to his son, and that's the moment where he just basically goes, I really tell him now. This is where we see the other page of that list that I said well, there was 2 pages from what we know. Well, actually, there's more pages because I could see the pencil underneath, but maybe we'll find out what they say.
I told you, it's not a list, it's a book. He's got a whole book. It kind of reminded me of Captain America's notebook with all the pop culture stuff he had to
Yes.
catch up on. Very different kind of list,
And
guys.
how
Very
Sam had
different.
told him to listen to Marvin Gaye.
But I love that. Like, in a way, it shows you, like, this is exactly why Bucky can't be Captain America. He's nowhere near being ready. Captain America has a notebook for all the culture he has to, be refreshed on. And Bucky has a list of people he's wronged. I mean, very different.
Mm-hmm. We see a scratched off A. Claremont, apart from Chris Claremont. I don't know who that is, but he's obviously made amends with that person. And finally, we see a Whittaker. Well, there are more names, but the camera doesn't show them below. The Whittaker, I said it could be a nod to a comic book creator called Steve Whittaker. He's worked on What If, which we know is coming up anyway. And he's also worked on Super Soldiers, which feature Captain America and John Walker, who we will be talking about at the end of this episode.
Yes. Cut to Switzerland. So we've got Torres, who, if you remember, he was like following those handprint things. He's clearly still been following them, and he follows, I don't know if that's an app or whatever it is, but anyway, he follows it. He has like a secret camera attached as well. And it looks like a bunch of people have been directed to this one spot, other people that have been following it. At this point, we don't really know what's going on. And we do notice a girl bend down and open up a bag and give everybody masks. We find out that she's someone who's going to be quite important, I think, to the storyline. So I'll wait for Harvard to get into that one once we've explained the scene. We don't know what's going to happen. Neither does Torres. And then they hear like a whistle and everyone's kind of stands alert. And then all of a sudden, glass smashes above them and this big, brutish masked man with
2 duffel bags.
Yeah, but I'm guessing cash, it's a bank, jumps out and chaos ensues.
So, I mean, we understand that everyone that's standing there is basically a distraction tool for this guy to get away.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned the Flag Smashers before, and this is them. They are a terrorist group. I don't know how they think robbing a bank is doing anyone any favors here, to be honest. But they take their name. You mentioned the original Flag Smasher. There is someone else. Well, there is another.
This was
Flag
the
Smasher.
original Flag Smasher. Yeah, that was the first one. That was the original.
So he was created by Mark, I'm butchering the names here, Gruenwald and Paul Neary in 1985. So yeah, the original Flag Smasher was called Carl Morgenthau. The woman handing out the mask, we don't see much of a glimpse of her. Her name is Carly Morgenthau.
See what they did there?
Carl in the comics was a non-powered costumed terrorist who led an organization known as Ultimatum, which stands for the Underground Liberated Totally Integrated Mobile Army to Unite Mankind.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Somehow by robbing a bank.
Did you also know, though, he was the son of a wealthy Swiss banker turned diplomat in Bern, Switzerland in the comics?
Well, hence the Swiss
I'm saying
bank.
Bern, it might be Bern.
Yeah, Bern.
Yeah.
Everyone acts as a distraction to the character we will find out is called, I think, Dovich. He attacks a cop and then Torres goes over and tries to attack him. But this guy is displaying superhuman strength.
This guy is like Winter Soldier level strength.
Yeah. So is this someone who's been experimented on like the Winter Soldier? Or we will get to it. Is this another person who has been experimented on with the mentioned John Walker?
Although I feel like it's probably more the first one just because we also know Zemo's coming back. So
possibly.
We'll find out, I guess.
Dovich is played by Desmond, I would like to say Chaim or Chaim. I'm sorry, guys. I feel like we were all butchering everyone's names.
And the person who is going to be the leader, I guess, of Flag Smashers, Carly Morgenthau. She's played by Erin Kellyman, who people may have seen in Solo, and apparently she's going to be in the upcoming Willow TV adaptation. So there you go.
Interesting.
Torres gets beaten the crap out of, left for, well, I don't know if it's dead, but
I mean,
unconscious.
He got stamped on pretty hard.
Yeah, I thought he was dead for sure.
Yeah.
But he's all right, guys. He's okay.
He's fine because we later see that he sends a video to Sam.
But before then, we are at the bank. If you remember, Sam and his sister Sarah wanted to go and see if they can get a loan. Sam seems sure that
More Sam than Sarah.
Sarah seems to be like, I've done this already and this doesn't work. But Sam feels like, I guess, he does mention during this meeting that, he gets help from goodwill. And I think that's what he was kind of hoping for now.
Yeah.
But it means nothing. It means nothing in this world.
It also makes you think, how have they lived?
Well, he hasn't really lived. So
yeah, but like before this, was it all good? I mean, the banker brings it up when they go there, and he's like, "Oh, well, did Stark pay you?" And he's like, "No."
I mean, he said it was goodwill, and back in the old world, maybe goodwill was the way things worked. But now that's not the way they work.
Especially after the last 5 years.
Exactly.
I mean, the banker is basically a fanboy, gets a selfie. He's totally inappropriate as well.
Very, very inappropriate. We were not allowed to do that when I worked in Harrods.
Long story short, they are rejected. And he says things because Sam says to him, "Oh, well, I know we can apply for this loan." And he goes, "No, things have changed in the last 5 years and we've had to tighten up." Well, how much did they loosen the purse strings initially when half the population was gone?
They probably didn't. I'm assuming that governments tightened, to be honest. Like they went, oh, well, we don't need to spend as much money now because there's less people. And now they all came back. They don't want to change the rules again. The world is broken, just like they said.
Well, I think we need to talk to the Fed about this, and they need to sort out the system.
Well, there is like a little hint of racism in this scene too. The sister does kind of say, oh, it's funny how, this whole thing wouldn't benefit us.
It would tighten around us.
The banker kind of tries to indicate that is definitely not what it is. But, I mean, there's always some kind of element of this, isn't there? Let's face it.
There is. Spellman, the writer, also said that he chose to focus on the racial issues raised by Sam being handed the shield at the end of Endgame. Don't you remember there was a lot of stuff online as well that happened?
Oh, yeah. And considering, though, Falcon has been Captain America in the comics. So
exactly.
Get over it, people. It's okay when it's in print, but not on film.
I hate to say it, but with the flag smashers as well, it's very similar to the stuff that's been going on in the States with the Proud Boys. Even though this was filmed a lot before, it's very reminiscent of that. And I think Sebastian Stan said that in a recent interview as well.
Right. I love that it's addressing this stuff. It needs to be done. I know some people probably won't like it, but yeah, well.
But it works. It's not like, it doesn't feel like it's just kind of plopped in there.
And you can't pretend that that's not a thing when you've got a black lead. You just can't, because it is the state of the world. If they pretended everything was great, that would be a lie.
It would. And not only has he already taken one selfie, the banker then says, "Can I get a selfie of you with your arms out?"
Yeah, I know. You're like, only if they're around your neck, idiot.
This is where we differ, because if that was me, I'd have smacked him. Sam is not that type of character.
No, he's not. This is why he's Captain America. Or he will be.
What I noticed here was Falcon's license plate. I mean, I tried to get some information on Bucky's license plate.
You failed?
I failed. Falcon's license plate said 184 EJE. And I think it might be a nod to the comics. Captain America and the Falcon issue 184 sees the return of Steve as Captain America.
We could only wish.
I know. And I'm like, is this a nod again? Is he around? Is he watching over them? No, it's not.
They're just being mean.
I know.
You're being mean, Marvel.
So back home, Torres sends the video to Sam. So he's watching it. And I mean, he can see the superhuman strength and he implies it, but they actually think that this is the leader of the Flag Smashers. And we're kind of like, but is he? Because we pretty much know, I don't think he is. I think she's using him as muscle.
I'm going to assume that it is part of Zemo as well. I do feel like it's some guy who's probably been like brainwashed like Bucky was. He's just basically the brawn that's going to help them get away with whatever they need to get away with. Sarah rushes in and says, "Oh my God." Well, I don't know if she says that, but she
yeah, she says it in that way.
But she says that Sam has got to watch whatever's happening on television. Puts on the news, and that guy that Harva says she doesn't like is on TV, and it says breaking news under it. And I remember when we were watching it the first time, I was like, well, what happened? Because they're not immediately going into this chaotic thing happened. There's no like immediate event.
No.
So you're like, well, what is breaking? Get on with it. Get to the point. What's happened? And well, I mean, it turns out, you know, they think we need a hero. We need someone to come in and fix it. And we've got our new person. I was very angry at this.
You cannot see my face right now, but it's very angry.
Yeah, we were
Which
both
was
just
the
like,
majority of the internet.
because we were just like, I think when it happened, because at first they don't immediately say it's Captain America. They're just saying, well, we've got someone. And we're like, who? Who the hell have they got? I'm just like, I'm not ready to accept whoever this is, but is it someone like a surprise cameo? What's happening? And then, what? New Captain America? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they don't even create another character. They basically go, no, we've got a new Captain America. And they introduce
And they
him.
gave the shield to some...
Oh my God, the close-up of the shield. And look,
and Sam
gave it. I mean, it's home to Sam. Sam rejected it because he said, you know, this isn't mine.
Yeah.
And you've given it to this. I mean, okay. You've given it to this lemon who's just holding the shield, who doesn't even know Cap.
You know what? The worst thing, and I think obviously they did this on purpose. Now we know who the actor is.
I didn't recognize him without the beard.
Me neither. I was like, who the hell is this? It was so weird because I've seen this actor and they've really done their best at making him look completely unsuitable to be wearing this costume. That helmet did not fit at all. It stuck out his ears. His face shape looked wrong. I mean, he really needs his beard back.
You mentioned Mr. Hart's suit in WandaVision. I saw this suit on this Cap and I went, no, that is not America's ass.
I think the whole world noticed this suit, okay?
Oh, hashtag not my Cap was
not my Cap. Oh my God. I'm sure he's a lovely man. What was that? He looked like a 12-year-old for a Halloween costume. That did not work on you. Take that off this second.
Remember when Steve first put on the suit and it was like this dodgy suit? But, you know, this is 2023. There shouldn't be a dodgy suit.
Also,
we just know
he still looks
suitable.
way better than this one.
I know. Well, this is the Department of Defense. They have handed the shield to a new Captain America who they find suitable. This again goes to the conversation where it's the same guy, and I think he's going to be more prominent than what he is about this government official, and him saying Sam is not suitable. Because, one, his color. Two, Team Cap, the whole thing with Cap not being on the government side, he didn't want to follow the Sokovian Accords.
In the comics, a mad scientist called Dr. Carl Malus, he experimented on very superhuman individuals. And then he went to work for the Power Broker Corporation, founded by someone called Curtis Jackson, who used technology to augment the strength of paying customers. So people that paid for this, I want it. I don't want to pay though. So he gave them basically strength to superhuman levels. And he was responsible for this augmentation of, well, another name for this Captain America is US Agent. I read a bit more than I wrote, but it was about how, obviously in the comics, he did become a sort of Captain America. If you look it up, he's wearing the same sort of costume. I'm calling it a costume because he is not Captain America. It's a costume. But yeah, in the comics, he was someone that discredited Captain America's ideals because it wasn't quite up to the levels that he believed it should have been. But it was later taken from him, so we know he's not Captain America forever.
I also believe someone had it before him as well, but I didn't write that down. I did read it. He wasn't like the next person. There was someone else before him. Sorry, was that it, or did you have more?
No, I didn't write any more, so yeah.
Okay. So I had written down, obviously this was stuff that I'd researched, because I didn't know I didn't know enough about John Walker. I thought it was a whiskey, but now I'm thinking that's called something else.
I think we know someone called John Walker. Hey John, if you're listening.
John. So yeah, he is a high-ranking member of the military. He was also created by Mark Gruenwald and Paul Neary, who I mentioned earlier. And he first appeared in issue 323 of Captain America in 1986. Gruenwald describes him as a patriotic villain. He played the role of a super patriot, a glory hound, loudmouth vigilante. He would stage fights with goons in Captain America masks, and they were called the Buckies.
I do not like this man.
Spellman actually described Walker as a soldier who has done everything his country has ever asked. So again, going
So
back
he's a
to the
proper
puppy dog,
soldier. I mean, that's the
he
thing.
is.
This is why Captain America was kind of different from the norm. You know, he was someone who stood by his own ideals. Yeah, he was a soldier and he did what he was asked, but only if he believed it was right. And but a lot of soldiers do just follow orders, and that's exactly what this guy is.
But I think he took up the shield because Rogers gave it up. I think Steve gave it up, not that he died. Steve gave it up and instead fought crime as a nomad. He's so badass.
Well, it's kind of like what he did in Infinity War in a way, right?
Yeah, and Tony Stark made him a new shield as well. I'm assuming that is the original shield. I don't know how they'll get their hands on it. But is there another shield that we're not aware of?
Maybe.
There could be another shield. But funny you mentioned the power broker, because did you notice that it came up in the end credits?
No, I didn't even watch the end credits.
There was quite a lot of stuff that came up, including Bucky's prompt words, if you'd like, to turn him back into an assassin. But it did also say power broker, and obviously this was used for John Walker. I'm wondering whether this is also what was used for I forgot his name again, Meryl. Dovich, that's it.
I love that they ended it this way. People are going to be talking about it for an entire week.
Yeah.
It's made me more excited about what's going to happen next week. And I swear to God, if they push it back where we're dealing with something else, I'm going to be very... how some shows do that, where you have to wait a whole episode because they went, actually, let's go to 5 months ago. I will know.
I really hope they don't, though, because...
They don't have enough time to do that.
Because we haven't seen Bucky's reaction, and he's obviously witnessed it, whether it was live or not.
Yeah.
How is he going to feel?
Exactly. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next episode.
I know. I can't wait. But again, like I said to you, now I'm kind of going, there's 5 episodes left. I think this is now that we've seen another Cap, everyone's going to go, no, give it to Sam.
Exactly.
Give it to Sam.
For sure.
That's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did again. I hope you've learned something as well as we did.
Next episode, we'll be looking at episode 2. What's going to happen now that they've got a new Cap? I don't know. So subscribe if you haven't already, but you should have done by now. We're available on all good platforms, and for more info, visit our site, geeklyrecap.weebly.com, or you can tweet us or follow us on Instagram at geeklyrecappod.
I'm definitely looking forward to it, although there's only 5 episodes left. 5!
So see you next week, everyone. Geekly Recap out.
Bye!